Hello everyone. Thanks for joining me today. This is Artful with Michelle. Today we're going to be working on an 8 by 8 inch stretched primed canvas, and I've already put just a thin base coat of Burnt Umber on it. I'm just going to have this as an undercoating and underpainting. And the funny thing is that when I sat down to think about what to design for you, I knew it was going to be a flower, and I started going through all the different colors in my head. Should I make it yellow? Well, maybe I'll make it orange. Maybe I'll make it red. So then I decided to just turn it into a rainbow flower. Now, what's kind of special about this is that I tried a new product. I'm going to tip this a little so you can kind of see how it looks under different angles. So on top of the painting at the very end, if you want it to look like this, I bought this Art Dragonfly Glaze. And this one is a violet, blue, green shift. And the concept is that as the light reflects in different areas, it changes color a bit. So they recommend 3 coats, and that's what I did at the end of this. And it's pretty cool. It gives it a little glimmer. So we're going to start the painting process. I used just about every color. So because I couldn't decide what color to design for the flower, I decided to use rainbow. So we have mostly liquid acrylics, and I did drag out a few of my tube acrylics just to have a stronger pigment. So I basically suggest using what you have on hand. And so the colors are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Okay, so my colors are titanium white, bright red, deep red, chrome orange, deep yellow, chrome yellow, green oxide, cobalt blue, phthalo blue, dioxane purple. Okay, and then in the tube acrylics, I had some little brighter colors, and I might even throw some of these little fluorescents in there in the end also. So if this was a meal, my mom probably would have called it everything but the kitchen sink. So I've got pretty much every color here. Okay. For brushes, it's already base coated, so I'm pretty much going to be using a large round, a small round, and a medium round. So these numbers, again, they're different between every manufacturer, so they're probably equivalent to like a 6, 10, and a 12. And these are 2 different manufacturers, so the difference between this 10 and 12 is quite a bit. Okay, I'm using kind of older round brushes that will give me a fluffy look. So the first thing that we're going to do is put this one aside, and we're going to draw a very basic flower. So in the middle, I'm just drawing, let's see, I'm drawing about a 3-inch circle or so. Okay, and then off of that, I'm going to do the petals. Now I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 petals, and my petals are also going to run off of the canvas. This is just a small canvas. Whether or not this is centered perfectly, I'm not concerned with that. So I'm just going to draw. Just have a white pencil here. You can also use just regular pencil. You really can see it over the burnt umber. So that's 1, 2. I'm going to do another one over here. 3. That one's going to be ginormous. 4. 5. And then 6 and 7. Now as we go, you might end up overlapping some over the others. We use a lot of white to distinguish between the petals. Whoops, I've already gotten my knuckle into some paint, and we haven't even started painting yet. So just wipe that purple off there. So the burnt umber undercoating, underpainting, just kind of makes your colors a little vivid sometimes. You do not have to do it at all for this project. So I'm going to start with red, and I'm going to start right over here. So I'm going to be turning my canvas. And I'm basically going to wet my brush, touch it on my paper towel, and I'm going to grab some of that deep red. And there's nothing fancy here. Just gonna put it on there. And I'm gonna grab a little bit of the brighter red too. And I'm just gonna let that set up a tiny bit. You know what? We are also going to need some Mars Black. I forgot about the black. So let's get that added. There's my thumb in the Dioxane purple. I guess that's the color I'm going to be wearing today. Lots of purple. Alright. So while that's setting up a little bit, notice I didn't paint all the way to the center. I'm just going to grab a tiny, tiny bit of black. And I'm going to put it in here, base it down in here. And then with a very, very light touch, I'm just going to swoop it out into the flower a little bit and let it blend into the red. I'm going to wipe that color off or rinse it in my water. And I'm going to rotate the painting a little to the right. And we're going to do the orange one next. So I'm just going to grab the orange, and I'm okay with it touching the red. You're going to see some brown showing through. So because that is so transparent, I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to add the black yet. I'm going to rotate again, and I'm going to get my deep yellow. And just make sure you make your brush strokes go in the direction that your petals would be. Okay, I wouldn't go side to side on my petals. Okay, so the next color is going to be green. So I'm going to use So I'm going to just rotate around this one time before we add black on these other colors. This is just a fun, just loose and fun design. So red, orange, yellow, green. So blue is going to be the cobalt blue, the brighter of the blues. Now this color is going on much more opaquely, if opaquely is a word. It's more opaque against the brown than some of the other colors. So we can go ahead and take a tiny bit of black and we can put it here near the center like we did on the red one. And then just ever so gently kind of pull it out. And a little bit more. And I let some of the swoops be longer and some shorter. Okay, rinse that. Rotate again. And the next one is going to be indigo. So I'm using phthalo blue for that. It is a very purpley blue. And I'm going to go ahead and put the black on this one, just a little bit. We're going to be going back in between white and black for all these petals. Now, I'm going to rinse the brush, get some of that black out. And I'm going to go in the violet petal, which I made ginormous for some reason. So maybe that's why I kept getting my finger in it. I'm going to not fill what I drew. I'm going to leave it a little bit smaller than how I drew it. And I might just make the red petal a little bit bigger. Okay. So we've gone full circle. I'm going to make the red petal a little bit bigger to adjust for making the really big purple one. And grab just a tiny bit of black. Okay. Okay, so basically we have the base colors there. So I'm going to move to the orange. And I'm going to take some orange on my brush and a little bit of black, and I'm just going to tap it in a little bit, and well, that's a lot, so I'm going to wipe off most of that on my paper towel, and I'm just going to pull some of that black in. Rinse my brush. So this is a process of going back and forth. So while we're working the red and the orange, they're the most wet of all the petals right now. I'm going to just take my round brush that's a little bit smaller, so medium size. I'm going to grab some white, and I'm just going to start going on each side of the petal just with some little strokes that are going to pick up some of the color in the petal right now because the petal's very wet. And I'm just going to come in and add a few inside. Okay, I'm going to leave that alone and go over to the orange one. Same thing, going to grab some white, and I'm just going to very loosely kind of outline the petal, make a few little lines inside that help form the shape of the petal. And I'm going to clean the brush. Do the same thing on the yellow. So I'm going to take the deep yellow. Now the yellow is going to be very transparent up against that brown. So we're going to work this in layers. I'm going to take the tiniest bit of black on the tip of that brush. So I only have a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of black there. Okay, and I'm just going to pull it. Alright, rinse the brush. Grab some white. Right now it's going to pick up a lot of the color of the petal, and that's okay. We're going to keep going over and over these. Here's our green. I'm going to take some more green. Now this layer is going to really be a lot more solid. And again, I'm not worried about where the petals really touch. I'm just letting them go into one another. We're not worrying about shading in between or anything. This is a really just kind of fun design. And clean my brush, grab some white, and just very loosely outline the petal. Each layer that we add will become brighter and brighter. So now the yellow is set up a little bit more. I'm going to come in with some white. Same thing on the green. I'm going to grab some white, come in and make some brush strokes. I'm going to turn to the blue. The blue is nice and really nice and solid. So I'm just going to take a tiny bit of white. And as you stroke through, if you do this while the other petals are wet, you will be bringing some of those other colors in. They're just going to mix with your white, and I'm okay with that. Okay, I'm going to take just a tiny, tiny bit of white and make some lines in that petal. I'm going to turn to the Indigo, which is the Phthalo blue. And same thing, we're just going to add a little bit of white inside. Turn, rinse your brush. See how that's turning out. And then we're going to grab some more of the purple. I think the purple needs a little bit more coverage. You don't have to be real careful with the second coat. I'm going to grab just a tiny bit of black, put my black in there, pull some out, wipe off my brush, grab a little bit of white, and the same thing we did on the others. And some white inside the petal. Okay, so that's your basic foundation to this. You can stop and blow dry it at this point if you'd like. I don't mind it being a little bit wet and the colors just kind of mingling a little bit. Okay, so out of all my colors, the red and the blue are the driest. So for now, I'm just going to go back to those. And you can see on the finished one that there's a lot of color in them besides the glitter. Okay. So let's go back to the red. So what I'm going to do, I have a bright red, and I'm going to come in and just add a little bit more of that brighter red. I'm not going all the way down toward the center. I'm just about halfway from the edge of the petal toward the center. I'm adding that brighter red. Then I'm going to go over to the orange. And I have a tube acrylic orange that's just a little bit more, just a little thicker. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going from the end of the petal. And I'm just kind of brushing, and it's kind of like a flicking motion so that the brush leaves the canvas as you get close to the center. Okay, so we're adding it here, and we're leaving the center deeper. That's our shading. Okay. On the yellow, I'm going to wipe my brush, but I'm going to leave a little bit of orange in it just for fun. I'm going to get my yellow. The yellow really wants to dry. It's getting cranky, so I'm going to let that set up. Okay, let's check out the green. I have a little bit more of the bright green. So just keep your brush strokes curved. So the sides of the petals, I just kind of curve it, and then in the middle I go kind of straight. Now, this green one needs just a little bit more black here. So let's go around and look at all the black and see if we want to put more in here and there. If the black is a little strong for you, for your liking, you can always add a little bit of the color that you're using in with it, just to give it the sort of the same hue as the rest of the petal. I love the red one. So these are looking good. I'm going to brighten up this blue one a little bit. So you can just keep rotating this painting, and they dry fairly quickly depending on your environment. I have the air conditioning on, so my paints are drying fairly quickly. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and add the white. I'm going to take more white, and I want my white to get very vivid. So I'm going to come back in, and I'm also going outside the petal like this. And just keep dipping in the white. And again, this is my mid-size round brush. It's actually a 10. I am not being careful. I'm just having fun and letting the color just kind of dance around the petals. I want to add a little bit more white. Sometimes when I go from one petal to the next, I leave the previous color on the brush a little bit. Take this. So you can see those really popping off the canvas with the addition of more white. kind of go around outside the petals too with some little extra lines. Okay, let's get that red one done now. That got a little more solid than I wanted it. I'm going to come in with a little bit of red in here, and we'll come back and touch that one up. It just got a little more, I got a little heavy on the white paint there. So I'm going to rinse my brush, grab a little bit more white, get this orange one outlined, and then the yellow. Remember, this is a rainbow flower. It doesn't exist in nature. It's just for fun. So have fun with it. Alright, so I'm going to come in and fill these little brown corners with just some little strokes, and I'm going to let some brown show through. Okay. So I'm going to let that set up just a little bit, and we're going to talk about the center. I did my center in black and white, and what I'm going to do is just use that same round brush, and I have some black on the brush, and I'm just gently patting it, letting some brown show through, just kind of laying the brush down with a little bit of paint. And pick a side that's going to be darker and a side that's going to be lighter. Okay, so I'm just coming along this side. So we're going to make like a crescent. Okay. And I made a crescent of black. And then I'm just going to rinse the brush a little bit. I'm going to take some white. And on the opposite side, I'm going to start patting some white. Pat, pat, pat. And I'm going to let it dance into the black and back out again. And get some white. Pat, pat, pat. Let it dance into the black and back out again. Then I'm going to wipe my brush and turn this around a little bit. So I want to create a dark crescent. So I'm going to take some black and I'm going to come back in. It's a little bit gray there toward the center where we added some white. I'm going to wipe off the brush. Grab some more white. So I just pretty much go back in and just dance the colors together. A little bit more white. I'm going to make it more narrow as we get to the end of the crescent. Same thing on this side. Tap, tap, tap. Get it more narrow. Okay, now let me put this down. Okay, rinse the brush. So I want the white to be a lot brighter than it is currently, so I'm going to grab some white and come in. And then this is where you might want to let it dry or hit it with the blow dryer. As the white dries, it's going to get absorbed into your background, and you'll probably want to come in and add more. I want to let it be a little bit messy on the edges and let it dance out onto the petals a little bit. Okay, and then on the dark side, I'm going to leave it dark. Okay, I'm just going to tap in a little bit more black. Okay. Just so happens that that blue petal is very dark right there, so I'm going to take some some Cobalt and some of the Phthalo and come in and just brighten it a little bit. Otherwise our black center is going to get lost there. So make adjustments like that. If something goes, you know, in an area not exactly the way you want to see it, you can just go back in with more paint and make adjustments. Okay, that is supposed to be the indigo flower. So I don't want to make it too bright. Adding a little bit more of the phthalo. And what we can do is make this one, let me see, I'm mixing up red, orange, yellow, green, blue. This is the indigo. So we can make it darker, and what we'll do is we'll make this blue one just a little bit brighter. Sometimes on the indigo one, I take just a little bit of purple too, and I add it in like this. This is, after all, for fun, so you know, you don't have to follow any particular rules. I love it with the dioxazine purple on the top. Okay. Now we want to make the purple petal look a little bit more vibrant because the brown is showing through quite a bit. So I'm going to take some purple and I'm actually going to just add a touch of white to the purple. Just to make it a little more vivid. Take a touch of the black. Okay. I want that crescent to be just a little bit darker right down in the center. Just adding some more black in there. Okay. And remember, we want the center to be really, really fluffy looking. So I just keep going between the black and the white. Just kind of pat. You can actually take a little bit of your white into here, as long as you don't make it super light. Okay. And I'm going to make it a little bit more narrow here where it comes to the end. There. And over here I'm going to do the same thing. Okay. Okay, let's go back in and strengthen our white around the flowers. Make it nice and bright. I'm sticking with the same round brush and lots of white. It's a really great size canvas. They're super cute. 8 by 8 inch square, and this is great for those spots where you can't really fit a lot, like someone's office desk. You just have a little spot where you don't really have room for a big canvas. It's just fun. So that's super bright and cheerful. Okay, so another thing that you can do is add a little bit of neon just to brighten up some spots. So I just grabbed some of what I had. I have a fluorescent orange, and I'm going to put, whoops, a little dot on my orange flower. That came out really fast. And this is the red, which I don't want my red to get too bright, but just put a little bit. And I happen to have some green. I don't have the other colors handy, but you could have as much fun with adding fluorescents if you feel like it. If you have it and you want to have some fun with it, I'm going to take some of that off there for now. And I'm just going to blend in a little bit of the fluorescent orange. Again, I'm not going all the way to the center. I want to leave that dark. Put a little bit of the red. Let me wipe my brush. Let's get some of the red in there. Make it pop. And we can make the green pop. So if you have those and you want to go in and add fluorescents, they really do give you just a little pop of strength there in your color. Super cute. All right, so now what I did was I came out of the darkest part of this with little black dots that went over the flower. But before we do that, let's take a peek. I think the purple one needs more white lines and the orange. So I'm going to grab, see, every time when I'm painting, as I add highlights, I keep coming back and adding more and more because they do tend to fade into the background as they dry. So we're just going to add a little fun highlight. Because if you use the Dragonfly Glaze, a lot of those highlights will be softened a bit. Wow, this is so nice and bright. Okay, and then I think this one's good. And a little on the red. Okay, so I'm going to rinse my brush and I'm going to get some black dots on this. So let's see. I think I'll just use a pencil. Boy, I put way too much paint out. I'll have to paint another one. Okay, so I'm going to use my pencil. You can use the back end of a brush or a stylus or whatever you'd like. And I'm going to make some black dots. Do you know what? They're going to have to be white because of where I put my opening. So if you make your crescent over your lighter colors, you can make the black dots come out. That was my first intent. But so when I do things like this, I don't redo the video. I like you to see where, oh yeah, I was planning this, but it didn't quite work out. So that you can see how you kind of just go with the flow, at least on these little fun designs. So I want it to look like the stamen, the pollen that's in that flower is just kind of spilling out. Okay. Super cute. Now I'm going to splash this, spatter it. So I'm going to spatter it with white and black and a little bit of whatever color strikes me at the moment. So I'm going to wet my round brush, put the water near my paint, roll my brush in it, and then I'm going to test it. Okay, so then I just tap. This is very messy, so you want to get in an area that you're okay getting a mess all over. Now let's do a little black. So I'm just going to do the same thing, wet my pile of paint. I always test it. A lot of water will make them bigger and not enough water will make them too small. So you want to test and make sure. Now this is a fun design, so if they're a little bit bigger, I'm okay with it. Another thing that you can do if it's a fancy painting and you're afraid to get too much splash, you can varnish your painting before you do this, and then if you get a big splash that you don't like, you can just wipe it off. So right here my highlight got a little carried away, so there. Okay. So let's do one of the bright colors. I'm going to use the orange. All right. Super cute. Okay, I'm going to blow dry this, and then I will show you how to apply the Dragonfly Glaze in case that's something that you want to do. Okay, so my canvas is good and dry now, and I'm just going to let you watch me apply this Dragonfly Glaze. Now it does say that, here I'll read, it's color changing top coat, and shake it well, and for a more dramatic effect, apply 3 or more coats, letting dry 2 hours between coats. So, you know, it's up to you. I decided to go ahead and do the 3 coats on the other one, so I'm going to just show you what I did. I didn't want to waste a precious drop of this, so I just squirted it right on my canvas. Okay, so I'm just going to drop some on there. And I'm just going to take my large flat brush, and I'm going to put on an even coat. Let me just put this down. You can see. And the reason I was holding it is sometimes you have to hold it and kind of tip it in the light to see when you're varnishing. And this is kind of like a varnish process. Okay, so you want to make sure you're not missing any areas. And it does have to dry 2 hours between coats. But see how you can see where I've painted it? It's starting to shimmer. I'm not really much of a glitter girl, but I thought this was so much fun. I saw it in the store, and then I came home, and I didn't buy it the first go round, and then I just kept thinking about it, so I knew that I had to go get it and try it. And I'm happy with the result for this project. You could also keep this just in one area, like the center if you wanted. Okay, so I'm just making sure that it's nice and smooth. I'm going to take a look by tipping it in the light. Sometimes the corners are the part that you tend to not get enough on. Okay, so where it looks a little whitish, it will dry. That's why you want to dry it between your coats, okay? You don't want to put so much and have it so thick that you don't end up with a nice clear coat with your sparkles. So this is pretty much what it's going to look like. Okay, it's going to be more like this when it's all dry. And the other thing that I do, once your varnish is dry, I painted all the edges black, okay, the sides, and it makes kind of like a nice little framed look. So again, here's the frame edge. I did it black, and then on my 3rd coat of Dragonfly Glaze, I brushed it on the black just once, 1 coat. Okay. So these are the 2 designs that I painted. This one does have more black out here on the crescent, and I really like it, so I might add a little bit more on this one. But I hope you had fun with this little project, and let me know if you try that glaze. I think it's a cool and fun product to check out. So again, this is Artful with Michelle. I would love it if you love the video to go ahead and, you know, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you can see more of my upcoming videos. Thank you and have a wonderful day.